And when it comes to this action and reaction, we have to learn that Miss Chitra Fernando is a brilliant writer now. She's a lecturer, right? She has all the qualifications with regard to her studies, right? And also she has written many books, right? So Brain readers, right? A series of books, right? And certain other things like English and Sinhala bilingualism in Sri Lanka. So she has a capacity in bilingual writing also, Pute, right? And one of her favorite short story collection is Three Women, right? She's really critical about the women in Sri Lanka, right? That's why this Three Women in 1984, right? Between Worlds, right? And other works of short fiction monograph from Idiom in collaboration with Roger Frewell, right? So she had some PhD qualifications also, right? And some of her novels, right, published posthumously, right, after her death, right? That's also another thing we have to consider. She had a marrow cancer in Sydney, 1998, right? So it's a unfortunate incident, right? Chitra Fernando's work seemed to be influenced first by Buddhist cultural setting in Sri Lanka, right? Then by the insights gained by her exposure to different cultures of the world. Third, by her knowledge of linguistics also, right? She's a, in other words, a brilliant, versatile writer, right? So that, of course, we have to uh, learn, right? And now, when it comes to her short story collection, Pute, now Chitra Fernandez collections, Three Women, right? Miscellaneous Action Reaction of Bread and Power. Approaches to reading of Three Women can be twofold, right? As a collection of three distinct individual stories on the plight of three different women as a whole, where interrelated issues are gradually elaborated, fused together to disclose common concerns encountered by women, exploitation and emancipation. So that's one of the, the key issues in this short story we have to learn, Pute. And when it comes to Three Women, a portrait of female victims, right, doubly victimized, right, primarily by females, right, then by traditional middle class values encouraged in society, right. Action and reaction echoes some issues, characters presented in other two stories, right, thus contributing to the development of characterization and structure of entire books, right. Characters in Three Women can be compared as follows, right. Miscellaneous is a portrayal of a household female servant, right? And the way she subtly exploited by her mistress, Mrs. Ranasinghe, who is respected as a pious woman in society, right? Echoing the characteristics of Mrs. Ranasinghe, Lokunanda in action and reaction also exploits Kusuma, the adopted child come servant, right? Miscellaneous never represents her employer, but Kusuma replicates Lokunanda's exploitation, right? When Lokunanda is physically feeble, while Misceline seems to receive the reader's sympathy towards her, Kusuma may receive the reader's antipathy in an action and reaction for readers may feel sympathetic to Lokunanda's plight towards the end of the story. Sea line of bread and power becomes the exploited due to the values upheld by parents, right? So some of the stories are really authentic in Sri Lankan context, right? So that's one thing we have to learn, right? Three women. So now this short story, two fact facet of exploitation of women, right? Process of exploitation experienced by women and gradual journey towards an escape from exploitation and emancipation. Miss Lin was subtly exploited, but she never reacted against Mrs. Ranasinghe and thus continues to receive the reader's empathy, because intertextuality also important, because your knowledge should not limited to action and reaction only. You have to learn lot of things, right? So that is very important for A-level literature, right? Kusuma gradually and acutely becomes the exploiter, replicating the role of Lokunanda. Sila leaves her parents' exploitation and seems to find comfort in life with the help of another female character, her grandmother. Unlike the first two stories of Bread and Power, reveals not only the victimization experienced by females, but how they liberate themselves from exploitation. It foreshadows female emancipation, unlike the first two stories of Bread and Power. Power. Right. In sincere virtue and piety explained in Buddhism, grandmother extends kindness, right? Grandmother extends kindness to all. Grandmother extends kindness to all human beings, while Sila remains generous to her family. If one reads this three-ply fiction as a whole, she can understand the interrelatedness in structure, gradual development in characterization. However, each story also shows the predicament of different female characters in Sri Lankan society. Also, Puthe, right? Plot summary of action and reaction. Puthe, the story action and reaction narrated by a male character in the story named Mahinda, who is also nephew of one major female character of the story, Lokunanda. The story opens with Mahinda's childhood memories of Lokunanda living in a village named Payagal in the southern area of Sri Lanka. Lokunanda is an unmarried woman living alone in a large house owned by her. She is rich, and as the narrator says, she had everything she wanted. Lokunanda says that her constant guide in life is the karmic law. Mahinda relates how she observes five precepts: society, everyone in the village, and all her relations respect and honor her for her piety and generosity and her behavior. She adopts a small girl, but not as a daughter, called Kusuma, and teaches her crocheting and household chores, but not reading and writing. Although Lokunanda says that she would arrange a marriage for Kusuma at the right time, she never keeps her promise. Unmarried Kusuma continues to live with Lokunanda, following the path of Lokunanda's meritorious acts, right? As the narrator says, Lokunanda is pleased with Kusuma and has given Kusuma the charge of the house. The story ends with the narrators as a postdoctoral student visit to Payagal. Lokunanda is physically paralyzed, while Kusuma is busy running the house and doing all the meritorious acts, even selling some ebony furniture inherited by Lokunanda and Lokunanda's jewelry. So we have to remember, Pute, some of the themes: piety and iniquity. The story subtly reveals how people's piety is beaten by their iniquity. The author repeatedly brings in the narrator's ironical description of Lokunanda, the practical woman, to indicate Lokunanda's hypocrisy, the dual role she plays between her piousness and wickedness. In the first part of the story, Lokunanda's actions display both piety and iniquity. However, the motives behind most of her pious actions are deeply and primarily rooted in her self centered longings. When Lokunanda is physically feeble and dominated by Kusuma, in the latter part of the story, Lokunanda seems to have reduced her iniquity, receiving readers' sympathy towards her. Religious practices in society. Religious principles are blindly practiced in society, perhaps to suit the needs and desires of the people. The story sarcastically discloses how some of those so-called meritorious acts are practiced to gain social prestige and power. Lokunanda donates loudspeaker to publicize her piety, and Lokunanda puts the best spirit Mandape to compete with another woman in the village. Ponchinanda hides the truth of the Mandape to maintain some power and to and power and to these practices reveal that even by being involved in religious acts, people try to be competitive and to hurt others. Thus, the story is subtle critique of such blind religious practices and people's ignorance of Buddhist principles. The tile action and reaction, Newton's law. So you have to have science knowledge also, Pute, right? Motion explains for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's theory, when incorporated into human science, can be interpreted that what one sows, one reaps. In Buddhism, this is explained in a different way through karma and vipaka. Karma is action and vipaka is the reaction or result. Karma may be either good actions or bad actions. Similarly, vipaka also may be good results or bad results. What Lokunanda strongly believes in is this karma and vipaka, karmic law. He seems to lead her life accordingly. However, the irony is that she succumbs to her and bad actions as presented in the latter part of the story. Although Lokunanda seems to believe that every vipaka is due karma, Buddhism teaches karma as only one among many other causes. Dana Paramita, the perfection of giving. Pranandu very subtly showcases how profound religious insights and values are wrongly interpreted to achieve personal, selfish, superficial goals of individuals. She skillfully juxtaposes the real Buddhist principle of giving and how it is interpreted by individuals in society. It is juxtaposed to the monk's sermon and meritorious acts of both Lokunanda and Kusuma. Similar to Misceline, where Mrs. Ranasinghe pays for an almsgiving to her servant in order to feel virtuous and to enjoy the worldly fruits of her acts. Both Lokunanda and Kusuma spend much money for temple building, shrine room, bana hall to collect meritorious deeds, expecting more in return, especially in the next birth. But but the correct explanation but the correct explanation of giving is explained by a Buddhist monk during the sermon, quoting an example from Tathagata, the Bodhisattva. Accordingly, perfection is giving in his generosity, expecting nothing in return except uh, enlightenment hurt the other donator. Right now, this is, of course, popular Buddhism and the real Buddhism, right? So, normally, if you don't expect anything and if you give something, that is the real Buddhism. But if you expect something in return, if you give, I mean, if you, after a donation, if you expect something, your name or some kind of a popularity, that is popular Buddhism, which is not advocated by Lord Buddha. So they are misinterpreting the Buddhism, right? So this short story carries some more concepts. So we will learn more concepts also in the future. Also, Pute, right now